Hey team, welcome to episode number 35 of the Next Step podcast, where it's all about people like you that are taking their next steps on their journey with Christ, but people that have abilities and skills and high capacities, like the two people we have with us today. So this is William and Cherie Winship. What a cool name. Winship sounds like just a great author's name. And he is, and they are very high capacity people. So we welcome you to the Next Step podcast and welcome you to our church.
Thank you. We're delighted to be here.
We love it.
Thanks a lot. So tell us about y'all. How did you get to be William and Cherie Winship? Tell us about your lives.
Well, some years ago, I met Cherie off of eHarmony.
Okay.
And in our meeting, decided that it would be a good idea to get married. So we did very quickly. And I went to work for the Christian Stewardship Association.
Okay.
Well, Cherie's been part of the Delta organization, Delta Airlines, in the Delta One, and learning how to serve people at high capacities, as you were representing.
Right.
And so.
Actually, I bought them off the internet.
That's the truth.
For $100.
That's cool. Okay. So tell us that story.
eHarmony.com.
Okay.
When it was Christian.
So eHarmony.com, you pay $100 to do it? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You fill out the profiles?
He said, okay, so I shut everything down. I said, well, I paid $100 and it's for 2 months.
I love it. So you got to come with me, right? Until I decide that you're not the
He's
one.
like, shut off all of the connections.
I love it.
I went on
So did you give him a rose? I mean,
yeah, exactly. Just like Ben. I went on a trip, and at the time, internet was still and so to use the internet in the flight attendant lounge, you'd have to go downstairs and go through the golf club avenue or make all these connections just to get a signal. And we had agreed that we didn't want to talk because in writing, you just really get to hear a person's heart and everything. Yeah. And so I get on this trip and I'm laying over the first night and there's no internet and I'm on my little flip phone or whatever, Motorola, trying to get to send him a reply, and then no luck. And then we have a 5-hour sit and I'm in Atlanta and I can't get through. And then the next night I lay over in Memphis. Went up to the top of the Peabody, watched the ducks come out and go down there, do their whole march and everything. And one of the flight attendants I ran into said, hey, if you go to the post, the mailbox, et cetera, or whatever, you can use their internet signal for just a minute. So I go over there and I get his answer to the last response and I print it out, and then I am trying to write, and it goes, yes or no. It's, you're timing out. This is it. Time's up. Yes or no, yes or no. And I'm like, I don't know. Yes. Yeah. And I clicked the wrong thing, of course, and it did not send. And so I rush back to my hotel room. I'm supposed to be downstairs in less than an hour, which I would never do. Yeah. Because you can be late for work once with the airline industry. And I call my mom and I'm like, Mom, you have to call this guy. You have to call him. I'm afraid he's going to think that I'm, just lost interest or whatever. And so she called him and he called me. I got downstairs for my pickup and he called me. I listened to the message when I got to the airport and we flew from Memphis back to Atlanta. And I said, well, I'll call you when I get to Atlanta or something like that. And so he calls me. I have a few minutes. I'm like, I am going downstairs now and I'm going to connect to my flight to go back to Cincinnati. I said, you can call me later. I said, but I don't want to let the phone go dead. This is a thing for me. I've got to say goodbye. I love you. Yeah. And, or goodbye, I don't like to,
I love you.
I got to cut things. I don't want to cut things off. And so he's like, it's okay. And I told him my philosophy on prayer was if God throws the doors wide open, then that it's a yes and amen. But if he slams them shut, then you just better be obedient and understand. And so he insists on talking to me while I'm going down the escalator. And then he says, I get the message on the other side and he goes, this is not a closed door.
I love it. He wanted to keep the door open. That's cool. What a great story too.
And then he called me that night I said, I know you have to get up early to go to work. And so I get home, I call my mom, who is this guy, whatever. And I said, I don't think I'm going to hear from him till tomorrow. And it's like 11 o'clock at night and the phone starts ringing. And I said, oh my gosh, it's him. And so I hang up with her and we talk for 5 hours.
Wow. It's 4 o'clock in the morning.
And then I get on my trip and we fly 3 days on, 3 days off. And I get on my next trip and I'm like, same crew. And the flight attendant's like, how long did you talk to your boyfriend last night? Because I don't do well without sleep. And I'm like, 5 hours.
Oh, no. And they're going like, oh, gosh, Cherie's going to be a pill today.
Our whole dating. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was our whole dating. Yeah.
So I used to think that when it first came out that internet dating and that kind of stuff was the biggest bunch of hooey possible. However, now that I've been a pastor and I've done weddings for the last 2.5 decades, I find that those people that meet online that answer their questions honestly and put up honest pictures are the people that get along the best because you've matched up interests across time instead of waiting to say, well, so do you like pina coladas and get caught in the rain? Oh yeah, I like pina coladas and get caught in the rain too. Because a lot of times, you meet somebody at a bar, they might look good or whatever, but it's not a match made in heaven. Instead, it's a disaster made in hell.
Yeah.
Right?
And they did the test that we went through, I feel like based very much off the DISC test.
Yeah.
And that's what
like
William taught.
Personality test.
Consulting.
A lot of people out there have taken that.
Personality profile. But there's like a new updated something. Yeah. Somebody brought it up recently, maybe Ben Higgins, on what
Working
was
Genius.
He said
colors.
I haven't done that particular test. I think an amazing Bible study would be like the personalities of people, like, Peter, we can all relate to Peter, can't we?
Yep.
Open mouth, insert foot.
Yep.
And just personality types, because that is so key in how we get along.
Yeah.
And yeah.
You'd be good at that. Maybe we'll let you lead that.
I think that would be an amazing
Are you a
study.
D, an I, a S, or C? Are you a lion, an otter, a beaver, golden retriever? Yeah. What's interesting about all these personality tests is over time, and those people that are out there, they typically fall in 4 categories. They sometimes they're colors. Yeah. Sometimes they're animals. Like the one that I enjoyed the most is one that Gary Smalley and John Trent used called lion. This is a D. Otter is an I. Yeah. Beaver is a C, and golden retriever is an S. So you kind of build these personality types. They always come out in 4s, and they kind of permutations off the 4. But I think you've got a fascinating idea.
I love it. Yeah.
Stuff. So that's how you happen to meet then. And so the phones, flip phone, Motorola, Delta, eHarmony.
I also told him that they had a money back guarantee.
Okay.
For 5 years.
Okay.
And then we're not good at math. So it was actually into the 6th year. I was like, wait, have we been married 5 years?
Did we get our money worth? Yeah. So when you put it out there, how long is it? Did you see other people before you saw one another, or were y'all like the first couple one another saw it, or what?
I remember I actually have a friend up in Stevens Point, Wisconsin. He's a bishop, and I met his sister. And I went to go spend some time with her. Yeah. And I was in the middle of a service when I realized, you know what? This is not my wife, and I need to go home.
Yeah.
So I left, but I became really super good friends with him.
Pastor Malik. He's like, I'm so glad you didn't marry my sister.
We're still friends. We're still friends to this day. And
wow. You mentioned him the last time we talked. That's cool.
Yeah. My personal passion has always been understanding the depth of relationship and developing equity with people and building community around that general concept. So the instruments that are used, the DISC, et cetera, and the Strengths Finder we talked about, and emotional intelligence,
powerful.
All those were part of a training I did for probably almost 20 years now. And I've since kind of retired from that.
And emotional intelligence.
I'm the handyman. So I have a company called That Guy Handyman.
Absolutely, too. And to the audience out there, if you shake this guy's hand on Sunday, it's like he's Jesus or something. He's been picking up wood all of his life, and it's rough. And I say, your hand's the kind that works for a living. Mine's the kind that talks for a living. There's very few calluses on it.
Like the off-grid guy, that's how his signature.
I was using the sledgehammer today. I broke up about probably 6 big, huge kitchens worth of granite and made a really nice road with it.
Okay.
Those are the kinds of things I like to do now.
You broke up 6 huge kitchens worth of granite and made a rug out of it?
Road
out of it.
Yeah,
Okay,
like filled the embankment down.
I see
I'm building my fire pit.
Okay, good.
Because I need someone to help me build a water trench.
That's absolutely true. So here's an advertisement for somebody out there. William has a shovel ready for somebody that would like to have a good long conversation, and he'll probably buy you lunch and dinner too if you'll help him to dig a ditch from an established water line to his fire pit. Right now, I don't know why you got to put a water line to a fire pit unless you're going to put the fire out. What is up with that?
Well, I think it's a good idea to put the fire out because what happened is a few years ago we had a huge fire at our house.
Okay,
and the fire traveled up the hill and wrapped around the hill and destroyed one of the main rooms. So we had to rebuild the whole house. So I've decided I could learn from that example.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
So y'all have a really rich history, and you're very high capacity people. You've also been in property management before, William. Yeah. You've been 25 years with Delta.
Yeah.
You're on the critical incident management team, response team, helping people to figure out what happens when things go crazy on an airplane. And you both have the gifts of teaching and one-on-one conversations with people, just really powerful things in your background.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Stuff. Say more about that. Pick something you've done and talk a little bit more about it.
Well, something I guess I've kind of have an affinity toward is being an entrepreneur, which is always in the process of growing and learning and developing. And so over the course of my life, I built several companies. My grandfather was an entrepreneur. We owned Winship Pharmacy, which became Rexall Sundown, which is now sold. But just as early as I can remember, I would hang out with very wealthy entrepreneurs. And I've had an experience to work with some of the greatest leaders perhaps on the earth. And I attribute that toward this one scripture, which says, do you see a man diligent in his work? He'll stand before kings. And it's not uncommon for...
Where's that from? Proverbs?
I think it's Proverbs. And one version will say not mere men, and the other one says not mean men.
Okay.
Yeah. And so there's been situations all of my life where, as an example, I was at the inauguration because this one doctor decided I needed to go to the front line when President Trump was being inaugurated in Pennsylvania. And those would be kind of some normal experiences. And then the Delta Airlines, I met with the CEO some years ago, Gerald Greenstein, while they're going through bankruptcy, and was afforded the opportunity to communicate with him regarding biblical stewardship, which has been a passion of mine as well. So there's just been circumstances that are unexplainable where I would meet key leaders over a sequence of years and learn from the wealth of knowledge that they would supply. And then growing up, I had a learning disability, dyslexic. I used to remember my father literally beating me because I couldn't spell the word the. I would spell it E-H-T, and he didn't understand that that's the way it was spelled in my mind.
Right.
But in reality, obviously, it's T-H-E. I've learned that since then. But the concept of that, and then I was forced to memorize scripture growing up. My grandmother was a Catholic, and that was the beat down too, because I didn't have the capacity at that time to learn. And a lot of that had to do with a life of going through where my mother and father got divorced. I had to suddenly grow up and be the father. My father checked out. My grandmother was overly controlling. And so that's been part of our life. And Cherie and I share some of those wounds because she has gone through some very rough spots with her parents and such. And so together, we're kind of at a place of maybe like the wounded warriors in all reality, you know.
So Wounded Warriors, for those people that don't know, is kind of a project to help veterans when they come back home dealing with PTSD and things like that.
Yep.
But you've been wounded by life, right? And you carry wounds from your family. I'm sure like most people out there have wounds from their father or their mother or their grandmother or grandfather or whatever. And you're just being really real and honest about that.
And those testimonies to me are good because we've been able to help people that have those emotional wounds get healing.
Right.
And there's just been a gift, I think, that the Lord's deposited in both of us, a compassion for people at the deepest level, because we understand. You asked me yesterday about wisdom. Wisdom is a principle thing. Therefore, get wisdom with all that getting, get understanding. It's when you get that clarity of your calling and what it is you're supposed to do. And I think the Lord has used all these years to help Cherie and I synchronize as a couple.
Yeah, I struggled. Well, I guess later kind of figured out for myself that I had attention deficit disorder, and my father would spank me when I'd bring home a bad report card, and I felt so stupid even then, too, because I couldn't tell what was a D from an A or a B or whatever, and the fine compliment your teacher gives you. Because you're supposed to say something really good about the kid who talks very excessively and distracts the whole classroom or what have you. But yeah, now I study intently on trying to figure out a balance for attention deficit, post-traumatic stress, childhood post-traumatic stress. And I'm really coming into some amazing teachings and understanding the effects of it and how using the word and loving people back to health.
Right.
With, like we discussed yesterday, Pastor, with your whole heart, soul, mind, body. And that I love, the teachings you've been doing, all of them, but recently on the mind and the heart and us just looking at it all, in whole. But there's also a lot of things that I see, and I'm a student, so I really loved in-depth study. And it's like, like you say, there's something that's really great about this, but there's a fraction off. So bringing it back and doing those checks and balances through the word and making it biblical, and then feeding the people and helping people have life and life more abundantly.
That reminds me of a story. I was on an aircraft with a Mormon, and he wanted me to have this book that he had.
Pearl of Great Price.
Just a book. He wanted me to read this book.
It's kind of like that. Sometimes they give you that book. Right?
Yeah, very important that I read that book. And I said, no, that's okay. I'm good. I have the Bible. I have the King James version of the Bible. And
Salt Lake
I'm good.
To Cincinnati, 4-hour flight.
Oh, wow.
He has this kiddo.
And I said to him, I said, there's an issue with your religion. It's very simple.
This was landing, though.
And it's kind of like this. Where do you think we're landing? He goes, well, we're landing in Cincinnati. I said, well, what state is that in? He said, well, that's Ohio. I said, well, I'm landing in Kentucky because that's really where it lands. I said, that's like your religion is just one fraction off.
Yeah, that's a great.
And he said, touche.
He said, where do you want to land? And Will said, well, I want to land in Cincinnati. And he's like, well, good luck with that, pal. And that's your belief system. It's just a smidgen off from the truth.
Yeah.
Really in Kentucky.
And that's what you're teaching. It's just that
there's
little
a mouthful. Bit. Welcome to the Northern Kentucky Airport, Cincinnati, Greater Cincinnati.
Yeah.
It's like, go around.
I've been to that airport, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
And I think it was voted like the mid-size airport of the year about a decade ago. When I flew up in there, it was a nice little place.
Yeah, after 9/11, I had to go up to Cincinnati.
Yeah. So you're a flight attendant too. So gosh, tell us, and then a supervisor of flight attendants, like you would take overseas flights on big planes to Paris and London, and tell us about that. What's it like to be in charge of a big crew?
It was really a rewarding position, a lot of fun. And that's where now I'm at a screeching halt and kind of like, I haven't flown for 4 years or gone anywhere. I mean, I am such a high energy, very much go person, but they did wear me out. Yeah. And, I missed half of my life, being away from my husband and not being able to be a part of my church body. And it's scary and lonely out there and the big world. But it was really amazing. I really, really enjoyed it. And I very strongly believe if you take care of your crew, that's where
It's all about that.
It's just take care of the crew, and then you'll demonstrate for them what makes the whole thing tick and what you want to see for the passengers. And we always got just high accolades and lots of great compliments and everything, and met some amazing people. Oh, Henry Blackaby just passed away.
Yeah.
And I had him on a flight.
For those of you who don't know, Henry Blackaby was author of Experiencing God. It's a very popular Christian book for about 20 or 30 years now.
Great study. And so I had him in first class, and I was thinking, I know I have a special meal. And I went and looked, it's a diabetic. Oh, it's Henry Blackaby.
Okay.
And the other thing that gave it away is when I went to pick everything up, I would do the lazy girls load because I wanted to alleviate my crew that would help me in first to get going and let them get to the back to put the energy in the back cabin and coach. And so I could handle it from there, but I'd pick up everything because I don't like food or anything in my face.
Right.
And so I go to pick up the trays, and I've got this one, that one, the other one. Sorry, Delta, kind of stacked. And his wife says, now, if this Darwinism stuff was real, you'd have an arm in your back now, wouldn't you? Certainly.
Interesting.
And so, I had already, knelt down next to them and said, Mr. Blackaby, I'm so excited to have you on board. And they were just really great people. I also had Marilyn Manson on a flight.
Oh, wow. What was that like?
Yeah. He was with the most matronly, cutest little girl, and didn't drink anything, was not a bother, was not hard to,
Right.
And those were the kind of passengers that are celebrities,
right, that
you would appreciate. I had Antonio Banderas.
Yeah.
And I probably shouldn't go here, but he was now our TMZ.
Yeah.
He was amazing, but I felt bad because we were on the 7.5 and we were coming from Malaga,
right,
and the 757 doors leak really bad. It's really hard to keep the temperature comfortable. Otherwise, somebody else is smoking out in the back. It's too hot. So he was cold the whole time, but he also was in duress because him and Melanie were, she went back to LA and he was with his daughter going back to JFK.
Right.
And so he didn't really want for anything, just wanted to sleep, was completely under the down comforters and everything. But about an hour out, he wanted to go to the bathroom. And right at the time that I'm letting the pilots do their swap out and get their break. And boy, he came up to first class, and he, we were just like, we had our whole thing, our whole drill because of what we went through 9/11. And the captain came out. I didn't have to, go through my commands. The captain said, I need you to sit down. I need you to sit down. And he starts blowing the F-bomb.
Oh, no, really?
My galley. And I'm like, no, don't. You're just messing the whole thing up. You got a perfect opportunity here to, but yeah, I had Kiss, Gene Simmons. I had Gene Simmons on a flight, and he slept the whole time. But his assistant, he was he was a really neat guy, and he had great business acumen. Like I listened to him while we're getting ready to open the forward boarding door for deplaning. I listened to him on the phone with this business deal. He hangs up his phone, and like any I can't keep my hands to myself. I get in trouble because I'm an affectionate, touchy-feely kind of gal. And so we collect their coats before takeoff and then give them all back to them before we land. And I noticed there was something on his lapel. So I went, and then he goes like, I had my vest on, and he goes to me. And then he turns and leaves.
To you?
Like we were two monkeys grooming each other or something. It was so funny. We didn't exchange any words or anything.
That's hilarious.
Things are flying with us, or things are choosing Delta. But yeah, it was.
You are kind of monkeys.
It was so funny. It was just like a piece of lint or something. And I was like,
yeah. And he decided to fix you too. So you're very open people too. So you've done lots of things. You've done property management. You've written business books. You've done individual coaching, that kind of stuff. And
I've owned a sequence of businesses. My first business was a landscape company. Then that led into property management.
Yeah, I cut grass too when I was a
clean cut lawn care. Well, he started.
That's true.
Yeah.
Snow shoveling, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Back in the day,
right?
When Super Duper was a big deal and the Easy Shop in upstate New York became now the conglomerate of the 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
Those were the original foundations of the supermarkets and such. Yeah. And so we owned a wholesale company.
Okay.
Winship Wholesale.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Walmart, Kmart came in and took that market share out, now we're dealing with Amazon. That's taking market share out, putting the big boys under. And you see how the sequence of events happening and the entrepreneurship has changed so much.
Right.
As anybody that is in that field is certainly challenged to keep up with time.
Yep.
But my favorite, and I'm shifting, but my favorite episode on the airplane with Cherie was when I was in first class. And I'm sitting there and she's taking really super good care of me, better than anyone else. I was like
you passed the test on eHarmony.
I was the king on the airplane that day. And this couple looks over at me. Goes,
I brought strawberry shortcake, I think, for the crew.
Yeah. And so I'm eating this strawberry shortcake, and this people next to me, they finally like, who are you?
Who are you?
I was like, well, I can't really tell you. Are you like a big
celebrity or something? We don't know.
I am a celebrity to my wife. And I did get the final rose. She grows flowers. Cool. She grows flowers.
She does.
I
remember last summer she brought us some. That was so nice for her to do that.
I love it.
She's a flower
deal.
Yeah.
But you guys are always working on doing some things together, and you have high energy and that kind of stuff. How has our church helped you take your next step on your journey with Christ?
Well, I think it was paramount
because you guys came in with a lot.
We did, and we had come in. I would say we came into church exhausted. We have been to church, and we have been to a lot of different churches, and we're not just church swappers. We like to get grounded, but it seems like every time we came in, we were overly taxed and put in positions of leadership and burnout and worn out. So when we got to church here, we were exhausted, and we had a little moment of drinking too much. Alcoholism is something that I'm very familiar with. I'm really good at drinking, and I'm better when I stop drinking. So we've quit drinking. But part of that was when we entered the church, we decided it was time to, smarten up and fly right, if you will. And so it's been extremely good for us, but it's a different season.
Okay.
There's a different flavor of this church. There's a more accepting group, and I don't feel like we're under condemnation or judgment. It's probably one of the best churches that I've experienced in my life as a Christian. And we can just go there and sit in the back seat and know that, things are taken care of. The serving is amazing and the people are great. So it's been an eye opener in that regard. And I really appreciate the church very much.
We really love to, I feel I was in a study last night, and it feels like in listening to the history of people that have been there for 15 years. And then first of all, I want to tell you guys something. Our pastor so loves our community and the people. Yeah. And he has a great reputation that precedes him. I've heard from people that your children went to school with their children, or and nobody ever has anything but the best to say. People that's
because of their mother. They have a good mother.
You were that you were that you taught them as a professor. What did you teach as a professor?
Psychology and counseling and stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. And just the fact that you always open in prayer, or that you would see a need, like you know, the Holy Spirit would beckon your heart, and you'd go, okay, you'd go to that person and say, hey, I want to pray for you. What can we pray for you about specifically? And just a heart to give and to see this community thrive and do well and represent us, even probably sometimes in a John Maxwell. I always get him confused with Max Lucado. John Maxwell sort of way, you know.
Well, thank you.
And if they ask you, then go ahead and preach and teach the gospel.
I'd say if I was going to identify,
but it was so cool to hear the testimony and the church. And I think the paradigm shift that we're at right now that is really exciting is the fact that we have had people that have come and gone over the years, maybe since the Y, and some that have gone and then come back. And then but we're kind of in some ways feeling like we're busting at the seams and we're getting really big. And we don't want to lose that real close-knit thing. And then, but what we're figuring out is, oh, you know what? To be connected.
Absolutely.
That is so key that we are in this group and we're all, you know, we're all getting to know each other and doing life. And this women's teaching established confidentiality. And we're going to let you off, you know, give your prayer request. And if you don't want to put your name down and, you know, and we're here for you and you're going to be seen and you're going to be heard. And just like the Ben Higgins teaching, you know, help us reiterate in that, you know, we don't want anybody to feel, and we don't want you just to come in and not feel loved and accepted and valued.
Well, thank you for that affirmation. And we're grateful that because you guys have so much capacity and you've given in so many other places too, you're also exploring places and things that you can do to serve, including you'd like to lead a Bible study for young women that are like 20s, 30 somethings that are going through a crucial time in their life. And I think we're talking with Brad about making that possible in our microgroup sessions and March and that kind of thing. And Bill, you're great at talking to people one-on-one. And one of the things that we want to continually do is engage men in the life of our church. And so, man, we might send you out as a missionary to have a bunch of one-on-one conversations. Again, he needs somebody with a shovel to help him dig a ditch. So if you're a guy and you got some energy and you always got some time, Bill needs you as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, Pastor, I think if I were to identify the difference of this church and other churches today, it would be that you as a pastor have the spirit of an entrepreneur, but the heart of a pastor.
Thank you.
And that is so huge because that combination is a magnificent combination that will increase the community. And it's that community part that is so vital, where it's not just a church which is trying to find people to show up and be a member. It's the people that are really empowered to go out into the community and make significant difference where it matters most. And sometimes that's the marketplace. And so that is what is appealing, I think, to me personally. And Cherie and I, of course, we talk about things, and I'm a dreamer. And Cherie is catching up with the dream sometimes. I dream too big often, and she just anchors me. So you got to have both of those things going on. So that's what makes our marriage work.
Great dream, but yes, but how do you do it, right?
Exactly.
There you go.
But when I go
I'm a dreamer too.
You know, when I go out, when I go and I build something like a second story on a building, and she sees it, she's like, "Oh wow, I didn't see that." But it's that catchiness, I guess, that we have going on.
That's cool that you found each other and you can build off one another's strengths and support each other in that way too.
That's true.
That's awesome. So where are some other places that you lived in your life? You're from Florida.
I grew up in Miami.
Right.
And
which high school did you go to?
South Dade.
South
of Miami. Well, actually, I went to Pathway Christian first.
Okay.
And then moved to Brooksville, Florida. And then I lived out of training with Delta. I went back to Miami, and then I went to Orlando base, Mickey, Minnie, world. And then after 9/11, went up to Cincinnati.
Okay.
Flew out of, commuted to Detroit when we merged with Northwest. Flew out of JFK. And my last 15 years was Purser International and did all JFK.
Wow.
So they just got a dump of snow too.
Yeah, they did a big snow today.
That would be a stressful commute.
Today's also like a replacement election day for one of their people, and they were worried about people.
Oh,
so we're
wow.
recording this. It's actually on, what is today? Today is February the 13th, right?
13th.
So that's happening. So tomorrow is Valentine's Day. Probably won't
That's
see
right.
this till after Valentine's Day, but we hope that you had a good one.
I hope
that
she
kind of
buys
thing.
me some chocolate.
That's right. It's chocolate time.
Yeah.
So let's go to a kind of different segment of our time together. So then
Okay.
you've kind of already led into that. Dark chocolate or milk chocolate?
Oh,
White.
whatever.
White chocolate.
Like
Okay.
white chocolate.
White
All right.
Which in Europe is like for kids. That's how they start the babes off on chocolate.
Oh,
on the
really?
white chocolate. Yeah.
How cool is that?
I don't really need a lot of caffeine. If
Yeah?
you notice,
I'm Danish, so I go for the
it
marzipan.
works really
You
effectively.
go for the what?
The marzipan.
Okay. And tell us what
Marzipan.
marzipan is.
Well, it's like Danish. It's
Like
like
almond.
a Danish pastry kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that would be, I grew up in Denmark.
Almond pie.
Did you really? How long were you in Denmark before you came to
Yeah.
America?
My grandmother, this is an interesting side note, but my mother's mother was the product of King Christian X.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
So you're royalty today.
Yeah, she was an illegitimate child.
Oh,
of the
okay.
He
king,
loved. He
you know?
loved the ladies.
Okay.
It
Okay.
talks about him in the history books about how he would horseback
what
all
he-
over
what
town.
What he was known for is his promiscuity, which I
Okay.
learned from him, I guess. And
Oh, okay.
I'm
All right.
over that now.
Okay.
I'm
Good.
only promiscuous with my wife.
Okay. That's good.
But
Papa was a rolling stone. Okay.
that's exactly right.
Okay.
So that he also moved all the Jews from Denmark
Wow.
into Sweden to protect them.
Really?
And he wasn't exactly a friend of Hitler. So
Hmm.
that's just history. But
Wow. So
Yeah.
this is World War II time period, pre-World War II.
Yeah.
Wow. That's really cool though.
yeah.
Yeah. That's part of your history. So how long did you spend in Denmark? How many years?
It was an early part of my life. I probably spent a couple years.
Okay.
We don't know. There was a lot of family
Yeah, in and out
chaos in
stuff.
that. We think like 5, 6, 8.
Right.
Because he started to master English, and I feel like he was already in school.
Yeah.
Up to like kindergarten or so. But then his mom and dad were having marital issues. Well,
Right.
they should have left her here.
Okay.
But they took grandma to Denmark so that
Okay.
his mom would, feel
It's kind
So
of.
do you speak
better being at
native? Is it
home.
Danish? Is it the language?
I was.
Danish. No.
I learned Danish
Alberg.
fluently, and then also I don't speak it anymore.
Yeah.
But I learned.
His
to spell.
sister was at our church this summer.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, she had her video camera and she brought it all the way up to the
Yeah.
stage.
In the middle of the service, she gets up and she starts taking videos of you.
Yeah, okay. She's
That was
like,
my
this is
sister.
such a weird guy out there on stage.
That's
Why are we
right.
doing
Right,
this?
She's taking pictures of the pastor.
Wow, that's wild.
We're like, well, we still haven't been bounced out of here.
No,
It's a
no, not at all.
miracle.
No, and part of our mission is that we want to create a place where people want to come to attend, and it's not like everywhere else. And we don't believe we're better than anybody else.
Right.
We just believe we're a different kind of flavor to reach people no one else is reaching by doing things no one else is doing, to borrow a phrase from Andy Stanley, who I think coined that phrase.
Yeah, that's
So
good.
I'm glad that we attract Danish people with telephone pictures, and they're taking pictures. That's cool.
Yeah.
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 Excellent. So where were you living when you met one another?
I was moving.
Kentucky, nasty.
No, I was moving from. I'm sorry, I just had a brain
Wisconsin.
moment. I was moving from Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
I had a business there called River Valley Home Improvements, a construction business, and then
Okay.
I was going to work for the Christian Stewardship Association,
Okay.
which was in Indianapolis.
Mhm.
And Cherie and I had met on eHarmony,
Right.
and she told me that Cincinnati was very close to Indy, so I could just live at her place, but
Yeah.
we weren't married. So, and going into ministry full time, I thought it
We
was
were
a good
married
idea to
really
get married.
pretty quick.
Okay.
So we got married right away.
Okay.
So
Better-
to avoid
Like how fast after you
better than
met?
to burn.
Like 5 a
or
month?
blow your testimony with the neighbors.
We were engaged the day we met physically.
Oh, wow. No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
So then we got married probably
that night when I talked to him on the phone, he's like, this is my wife. You're my wife.
Oh, wow. And you said, yes, I am? Wow, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
That's not like love at first sight on Harmony.
She said, no, I'm still searching.
He gave me my engagement ring, and I had a ring for him, in fact. And another flight attendant was like, what are you doing? Are you crazy? You've lost your mind. You don't even know this guy. I'm like, well, we're getting married.
It's been 20 years.
God's got it.
20
years.
20 years. Wow, that is so cool.
10 years of normal people's lives because she's gone half the time.
Yeah.
Now she's there all the time.
Oh, I know. Now we have to live
Now you're
together.
making up for it, right?
Now we have to live together.
I'm beginning to learn how to be a husband
It's
again.
extra.
That's awesome. So along the way, you've done all sorts of things like you've done property management, you've written books and those kinds of things, and just really interesting. So let me ask you a few novel questions. So would you rather read a novel or a biography?
Novel, probably.
How about you, Cherie?
Biography.
Okay.
We always loved like the Jetsons, the Flintstones, the social cartoons, of course, not Roadrunner.
Maybe. All right. I like that.
That wasn't our beat.
But she makes a unique sound.
Okay.
Cherie, if you can get her to say it, it's a dirtle.
No.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, my mom said that I wasn't a good napper.
Okay.
I always had this energy. And she said that, I wasn't a bad kid. She said, you just go in your room and you just sit there and go ditter, 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 ditter. I was preaching.
And that's why I married her, because we can communicate.
Okay.
It's a communication style.
Right.
I still hear kids doing that, babies once in a while.
I love it. Yeah. So American food or European food?
European.
What kind? We know marzipan for dessert, but whatever. What else?
Pretty much Danish.
Okay. Tell us what Danish food is like.
Well, we were, Danes are Vikings, so it's a lot of beer.
Mm-hmm.
Steak.
It's not food.
Okay.
Some brown bread.
Oh, meatballs.
That heavy bread, meatballs for sure.
Oh, yeah, that real heavy, seedy.
Yeah?
Yeah, not very
grainy
healthy
bread.
stuff. But, yeah.
Cool. How about for you, Cherie? European or American?
European, I would say Greek.
Greek?
Yeah.
Good?
Mm.
Mediterranean.
Like gyros and stuff.
That's really hard, Pastor. I've had some really good meals.
Absolutely, because you've been all over the world, right?
Schnitzel and Frankfurt. Yeah.
I tell you what I don't want. I don't want any haggis, and I don't want a full English breakfast either. Y'all can keep it.
English breakfast.
Keep it. I want my bacon and eggs and grits, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Don't be giving him no sheep intestines to eat or anything like that.
It's a Bible Belt Southern breakfast.
Oh, gosh, it is.
On.
Absolutely. That's why our Bible Belt is so big, because we have lots of bacon, right?
Oh, yeah, right?
Good deal. Good deal. So traveling, would you travel, if you had a chance immediately, would you want to go somewhere in the United States or somewhere elsewhere?
She enjoys traveling in our RV.
Okay. All right.
I am loving that, but mainly because I'm not a good car person, and having the RV, it's like I can move around. I can go design the back bedroom or something on the way.
Right.
It's like an airplane without wings. She's still got her galley.
It's like an airplane without wings.
Yeah, she has a galley.
True. Like I have a tray table that I bring him lunch up to the captain's, the cockpit.
That's awesome. Yeah. So you have an RV and you like to travel
and a house
domestically,
but international. I'd like to go to Australia.
Okay. Did you never go when you were flying?
New Zealand? No.
Okay.
No. We did predominantly Europe. I did Shanghai and, for a season when we were merging.
Let me get honest with you, Pastor.
Okay.
I told Cherie that I wanted a pop-up trailer.
Okay.
So she goes and does her research, and she buys a 48-foot RV, which she can't drive at all. And then on top of that, when I think finally she's over that craziness, she buys a houseboat.
Okay, that's right. So this came up yesterday. So for those people out there, you understand what this is like. So William says that Cherie now has her houseboat. It's her houseboat. Tell us how that happened.
Well, I always wanted to have a Airbnb.
Yeah.
And so I found this houseboat. It's 2-bedroom, 2-bath. It has a second story. It was taken out completely and remodified.
Okay.
The gentleman that
it was called the Heine Hall
that redid the hall and all of that.
Okay.
Went through a divorce, and I think his plan was to fix, but he did cabinetry, so I got a whole kitchen out of
really
it.
Nice.
But his plan was to live in it, and then he met a beautiful woman, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm not going to live on the houseboat,
yeah,
but I'll marry you." And so then he gave it to his son, and then they sold it to another lady, and then she lived in it through COVID, and she was 70 something when she decided that she shouldn't be living. Her daughter decided she shouldn't be living on the water anymore.
Yeah. Understandable.
She went for a swim at the
involuntarily.
Yeah.
She fell over.
So now it's like 2-bedroom, 2-bath, full kitchen, oven, microwave, dishwasher, full washer and dryer, spa shower.
Wow.
Mirrors on the ceiling.
Okay, all right.
In the bedroom.
And no electric.
Spa, terry robes.
How about that?
And the top bedroom was built upstairs. It has a swinging bed.
Okay.
And a whole nice, lanai out back, and beautiful on Lake Wiley because you can see the sunset.
Yeah.
And
so is that your Airbnb?
It's one of them.
That. And then we have a 1950s trailer.
Okay.
That I was down at my dad's, and Will and I were talking about this.
Yep.
And I got back home, and it was on the side of our property, face pointing down towards the embankment, like I was going to roll off.
Yep.
And then we decided to move it up, and I told Will, I said, these always leak, so can you put a roof over on it?
Right.
And he built a second
You showed
story.
me a picture of that yesterday.
Yeah.
So he builds a roof up over on top of
to make sure it doesn't leak anywhere.
Second
floor.
I used to work
cool.
I used to work a lot with the Amish Mennonites and in Lancaster County.
So you lived in Pennsylvania a good bit of time?
No, I flew there. I was I had an individual that found me on a video that I had done. Okay. And he was a former Amish guy, and he was convinced that I could help him with his marriage.
Yeah. Okay.
So he called me and said, I was a business consultant because I want you to help me with my marriage with Anna Mary. I was like, well, Lloyd, I don't do that. And he goes, well, how much do you get paid as a consultant? And I was like, well, $1,650 a day. He goes, well, I'll take 5 of those days.
Okay.
So he hired me to help him with his marriage, and he showed up without his wife.
Okay.
And we went through this training that I didn't know what I was doing. And by the time I was done, he thought I did such a superb job. He started telling all these Amish people. It's kind of like the Tell the Amish.
Yeah.
It goes all over the community. And I started getting these calls from these Amish couples that I'm supposed to help them with their marriage and relationship.
Okay.
And so I did that for almost 15 years of the 20 years of my consulting.
Wow.
It just became something that happened. And so that's what brought the Amish together.
So we have one of the kiddos that, decided to come down. I want to help you guys with your property. And
okay.
He brought 15 people.
Well, this young kid, John Mark King, he shows up on our property with a bunch of other Amish people. There was about 15 that showed up to visit us. And that's not uncommon for the Amish. They'll get their RV, they'll drive over, and about 15 or 20 of them will come out of their RV like ants calling out of a colony. And anyhow, it's crazy. So that happened. Cherie's first Amish sighting happened here in North Carolina.
When the Amish came to fix your roof.
We came to Charlotte because William was doing consulting for Upper Cervical, and they had several franchises. And so he was working with them and, still kind of doing some of the work with. And so a couple was passing through town. And I said, okay, well, we're living in this little farmhouse outside the former Speaker of the House in Huntersville, who had this great big place and moving from Northern Kentucky. And so we had 2 homes. We're paying all this mortgage and everything on. And William would use the bigger house to do training and what have you. So I said, well, I'm going to be off. What should I try to think about for dinner? Okay, I'm going to take him and his wife to upper cervical so they can get an adjustment with Dr. Drury. Okay. And so I'm just going to do tacos. How many, should I plan or prepare for? Well, it's him and his wife, and then they have their daughter with them, and they're always, they have lots of babies, and she's probably nursing, so her and the baby. And I was like, okay. They get to our property with their RV, and there's 1, 2, 3. First of all, I'm like, why is it 7:00 and they're still not done? Like 15 people. 15. I'm like, fishes and loaves.
No, 15
with the taco stand.
It was a John Bevere. Anyhow, the Amish are coming. That's what I told her. And so all of a sudden, the RV shows up, and about 15 of the Amish come out of this like an army of Amish people. Yeah, Paul Revere, right? And so like 15 of the Amish people are coming out of this RV, and that was Cherie's first exposure to the Amish, and they came south. And so my normal, when I went up to Lancaster, is I would have a series of Amish people. They'd all have me come over, and it's exhaustive.
Oh, I bet so.
Oh my gosh.
Big process, because they're used to having a lot of time. It's not like, hey, we got to hurry up. The show's coming on.
Yeah.
Right. We got to hurry up. We got to do this. And instead there's more relational stuff.
They're the Amish, the Mennonite, extremely relational people. I think over the course of my life, I learned more about relationship with the Amish community than anywhere, where you have to deal with real cultural issues. There's a certain aspect of religion that is a little bit over the top. So you have to get permission from their bishops to work with the families, which is interesting, because if you don't have the right biblical point of view, they will shun you. Shunning is normal for the Amish. And so I was fortunately not shunned in the community over the years that we work with people, but it was a delicate, tight walk, so to speak. And what would happen is I would lead these Amish people to Christ, and then they became the evangelical Amish. And they would say, hey, I'm going to quit going to church anymore. And I'd be like, no, you need to go back into your community, in your church, and share that message. So that was years ago, and now that still is going on. The evangelical Amish are still evangelizing their community, which is awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
So did Amish theology, or I guess, as you mentioned, Mennonite theology, is it kind of like more, you're chosen to be in this community? Is it more of that, or is it like you can choose to be in this community?
I would say the Mennonite community is very, if I could put it this way, very legalistic, all about the rules. And so when Cherie and I got married, I had partners, and they were all Mennonites, and they all had their doctorate degrees, super smart people. One actually helped rewrite the ACT test, so they're brilliant.
Wow.
But when it comes to, just chill a little bit and relax, there's a real amplification of the rules.
Right.
And Cherie and I are not rule keepers. We're really bad. We break the rules, totally break the rules. If you set rules for us, you can guarantee we're going to break the rules.
Well, you can't put us in a box. We're just
we just don't. We just don't fit in that box of rules. So we broke the rules, Cherie and I, and so our partnership dissolved. And that was when we launched WINSHIP Global Alliance from that. But the experience working with these brilliant leaders, you couldn't put $1 to it. I value even the legalistic aspect. I learned so much. But yeah, that's what it was.
So WINSHIP Global Solutions, what did that do?
WINSHIP Global.
WINSHIP Global was generally a consulting business, consulting, coaching, hybrid. And what I would do is I had the attitude that I could help businesses. And it was all maybe in my head. So I believed so much in it, I would knock on doors until I found somebody that finally would resign to the fact that they were tired of hearing from me, and they would hire me.
We worked, but Will in Northern Kentucky worked with a consulting group that was bad news. And it was just such a...
Well, that's what kind of spurred it, is a bad experience with a fake consulting business that didn't know what they were doing. So I was inclined to learn what is real consulting. And the fortunate part is I met the lead consultant of Lexmark. And he took me under his wing, Roger, and he taught me the things I needed to know to be a qualified consultant.
Right.
And so over the course of years, we helped a variety of businesses. There was a Dynavite, which was a dog vitamin business. There was Fitz. Fitz actually is an acronym for the owner of the company who liked to throw fits. He hired me. It ended up me helping him with his marriage. Mm-hmm. And so it was all relational is what it boiled down to at the end. As I was learning and studying and growing, it came down to the concept of relational excellence and how do we interrelate in a community and develop a culture that actually works. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what that was. And it still is a passion. It's something that's ingrained in my core. Yeah,
you're a consultant at heart or coach.
I am.
Yeah, that's excellent.
I can fix stuff too.
Yeah.
Not my wife.
Good deal.
Oh.
Well, okay. She's still working with
Try to fix you, that song.
That's right.
I love that song.
The Coldplay song, right?
Yeah.
Now, I met a couple in Lancaster. They were 88 years old when they went through my training.
Okay.
And they were tricky because they were adopting me.
Okay.
And so they were prominent leaders. And so they insisted I go to Haiti.
She went down to the Capitol and prayed for people.
Still to this very day, she's well known
regularly
in the city in Harrisburg, where they have a group of people that get together every week just to pray for leaders in the political realm. Mm-hmm. But she was that lady that sent the Bible to Obama.
Oh.
Okay.
She actually sent a Bible, her personal Bible, to President Obama because she really believed that she could get that Bible in his hands and it would have transformational power because that is true faith.
Yeah.
And that's, having the heart of a child.
Yep.
And believing that way. That's who she was.
Right.
And then her husband his name was Papa Luke.
Edna and Luke.
And I remember the last time I met with him, I was literally on my knees in front of him praying. And he said, glory. He said, glory. And he was like breathing
chlorine?
Glory.
Okay, glory. Glory, okay.
And then as she was passing away, the week that she passed away, she looked at her one son and she took me on as a son, adopted son. She looked at her one son and she said, get serious. She said that to me, get serious. And she looked at her other son and said, go do it. So that idea of get serious, go do it, became part of our marching orders.
Wow. Mm. Don't wait. Do it now.
There's so much here.
There is so much here.
Yeah.
Just like sitting on a mountain of information. That's awesome.
It's a fun journey.
As you consider where you're going to go next and what you're going to do. So you got a houseboat, you got an RV, you got a house, you got lots of new friends and stuff like that. You're working on new projects together and just kind of figuring out some things that you want to do together, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, kind of one of the A-level projects we have going right now that I think is important is we're going to be doing an event about 6 months from now with the Wounded Warriors. Okay. Because that was something that Gerald, my stepfather, was very passionate about.
Father-in-law.
Father-in-law. That's
Father-in-law.
right.
That's right.
Well, he passed away, and that was what he was passionate about, is the Wounded Warriors.
Right.
And several years ago, I interviewed General Blinken, and he was the head of the Delta Force. Mm-hmm. And an interesting individual, but the end of the interview was the most important part, where he got up and he walked away. And it was like, here's a guy on a mission. He came, fulfilled the assignment, and got up and turned and pivoted.
Right.
And I feel like at this point in our life, I feel like the general, in the sense of, I know that we have a mission. Mm-hmm. And it's important to stay focused on that one thing.
Right.
And Paul talked about that, this one thing that I do. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so I think that it's so easy in this world of ping pong balls going off to stay focused.
Right.
Focus does produce results.
And cool. My family background, my dad struggled with alcoholism and I feel like post-traumatic stress, and my grandfather and my dad's oldest brother. And so, it's kind of hard to come to terms. It's very hard to come to terms with the mental abuse and the ickiness and that. And I just want to celebrate his life.
Right.
And I hate that he did not. I think he got fire insurance. I hope.
Mm-hmm.
I believe he did. And was able to go to heaven, but he really was the demon of alcoholism.
Sorry.
Thank you. A constant and probably post-traumatic stress. So we want to do this effort for Wounded Warrior and help. We've got my dad played the guitar.
Mm-hmm.
I got some cigar box guitars, one that he built, an Ovation my mom bought for my dad as a gift before they got divorced. And just some really neat stuff. Pastor doesn't know what Pall Mall in a can is.
Yeah, I didn't know what that was. You had to explain it to me.
Anyway, just these different taxidermy, really fun dude stuff, you know. And so Wounded Warrior has agreed to come to the property, and we're going to do a life celebration in Florida.
Fantastic. Like Cherie picking up a grenade and throwing it over at the pastor.
What I loved about it is the CEO said, you know, we'll give you the brand, we'll give you the people, the resources, whatever you need to do what your vision, to complete your vision with this. I want to do food trucks. I want to just really celebrate Daddy, have really good music that he would play and I would sing. And what we want, Cherie, is for you to be able to recover as a Wounded Warrior also. And
by doing for them, you can kind of help to
it's not just about the people, in other words, that we're helping. We want to see you get, your breakthrough and your closure and your,
absolutely
Jesus factor.
Yeah. Well, I just appreciate the way that you so practically love one another and how you practically love other people. And I know the people that are watching today want to go seek you out in the congregation now and say, hey, I watched you and that was really cool. And it's just been great to get to know you even more over the last several months. And I just really appreciate your heart of service and that kind of stuff.
And I would like to ask my wife to quit throwing grenades at the pastor. And the very last thing I would like to say is she needs to quit saying Ray in the middle of
Ray.
Oh, that's funny. So sometimes in the middle of the service, you hear somebody say Ray. That's kind of a thing that they do because they had a friend that used to be hard of hearing or would be at work and they'd have to get his attention. Andrea kind of feels that way about me too. Ray!
So if you ever hear that in the congregation, it's like a yes and amen. Ray!
I love it. I love it.
But you know what the goal is? To get the entire congregation. Yeah, some congregations go amen. We go, Ray! When you do well. When you do well.
We do. Like it's in our household. We'll just, whatever, the dog's doing something or whatever, we'll sneak up on them. Ray!
I love it.
My dog will go crazy.
So this is not about me for those of you out there watching. It's about somebody they used to work with named Ray.
But it is.
Okay, all right.
It's about Ray.
I love it. It's an adoption. It's about you now.
It's a term of endearment.
All right. Good deal.
It is.
And a yes and amen.
No, we love you and we really appreciate the church.
Well, we appreciate you too so much. Very well.
For having us.
And so when you start doing
Thanks
that,
for
church
keeping us.
Oh, you're welcome. Absolutely. Thank you so much. You're going to want to take advantage of getting to know William and Cherie as you see them at church and stuff like that. And if they say Ray in church, I'm speaking in tongues. We got something else going on there too. But we want to thank you guys for tuning in for this episode number 35. And we're grateful for Cherie and William for sharing some of their life with us. Get to know them at church. And again, if you want to dig a ditch, Ray's got a job for Ray's got a job for you. William's got a job for you. See, you got me confused here too. So until next time, for episode number 36, we're signing off. And thank you guys again for being with us.